Hi, the purpose of this video is to inform teachers about how to score the upcoming district benchmark assessments for ELA. For this benchmark assessment, the answer document will look different than it did in the previous quarterly assessments that were administered on the district level. First, let's take a look at the test and what it looks like for grades 3 through 8. So on the screen, you can see a copy of the grade 4 test, and the process is the same for grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the first page of the document, students can see the directions and the writing prompt. Keep in mind that the narrative task is timed. Students will have 60 minutes to read their passage, answer their questions, and write their narrative. So this is page 1, and there's some additional supports right here for students just as reminders of how their writing should look. So then if you scroll down, and there is room for a student to put his name, the teacher's name, and the school. If you scroll down, you see the text. Each narrative task will have one text. So students are going to read this text, and there are directions at the top of the text right here. They will read this text, and note that in most documents, the paragraphs are numbered. If the questions that follow the passage require students to go and locate sentences in the passage, the paragraphs are numbered so that it is easier for them to find those sentences. So we're going to scroll through this text. Then after they read the text, they begin answering their multiple choice questions. Most of the questions are evidence-based selected response questions. Evidence-based selected response questions require two parts, a Part A and a Part B. Part B is going to cause students to look for the evidence to support their answers to Part A. Now, note how the answer choices are labeled. If it's a two-part question, the answer choices for Part A will be labeled A through D. The answer choices for Part B are labeled E through H. In Scantron, this item is in as one item. Students will respond by selecting one answer from A through D, and then another answer from E through H. Let's pause right now and look at the answer document. So on the screen, you see a sample answer document. All of the information at the top will be pre-filled in at your school. So right here, this section right here, is where students answer their multiple choice questions for ELA. For example, we just looked at a Part A, Part B item, and Part A was labeled answer choices A through D, and Part B was labeled E through H. So when a student responds to that question, he or she will have to bubble in two answers on the same line. One answer will come at the first half of the line from A through D, and then the other answer is the second half of the line from E through H. So students need to know that on each one of these lines here, they will have to bubble in two answers if it is a Part A, Part B item. There are items on some of the grade levels that are not Part A, Part B. They are simply multiple choice questions. So on those tests, their answer document will reflect only choices A through D. But if the option is present to put answers from A through H, they need to know that they will bubble in two times. And if you look at the examples on the screen, you can see that each line has two bubbles filled in. This way, the Scantron system will mark the answer correct if they have gotten the Part A and the Part B correct. In the operational state testing, students must get Part A correct in order to receive credit for Part B. So the Scantron system has been used to score in this manner. Now, looking below the answer choices here, you see rectangles right here for some subsequent items. These rectangles here, from here to here, these are for scoring the essay. students do not mark in these rectangles right here. This is so it's easier for the teacher to reference which scoring element she's looking at so that she can mark the score here. Let's go back to the testing document. So we left off by looking at Part A, Part B, evidence-based selected response items. The last item on the test will be for their written response. They will write narratives in the form of an essay. So each document has space for brainstorming, and then they will write their narrative stories on the lines below. And there's a few pages of lines. If they need additional space, please let them write on the back of the sheets. So in order to score the essay, teachers will use the current statewide assessment rubric. So this is a copy of that current rubric for the narrative task. Note that the highest score point for each element you can get is a 3. This is how we're going to score this test. In order to get the data that reflects specific skills that the students would need in order to be more successful, each one of these elements, each bullet point, will be scored separately. This is different from how the statewide assessment will be scored. On the statewide assessment, students will receive a holistic score for all of these elements right here, combined. For our district benchmark assessments, we are not combining the scores. Each one of these bullets will be scored separately. So for example, I'm going to administer a score for a response being effectively developed with narrative elements and consistently appropriate to the task. So when I read student work and I've determined that the student has earned a score point of, let's say, 2 for this element right here, on that student's answer document, I'm going to go down here and mark the appropriate score for that element. Note that here is labeled element 6 here. The language is up here. That'll avoid teachers from having to go back and forth between the rubric and the answer document unless they feel the need to do that. The same goes for each of the other elements. When I score for this element right here, effectively organized with clear and consistent writing, on the student's answer document, I'm going to indicate the student's score for that element right here, and so on and so forth. For the narrative task, the highest score that you can get for each element is a 3. Please contact Sheila Banks at shbanks@opsb.us for any further clarifications or questions about using the ELA Scantron documents for the Spring 2016 District Benchmark Assessments. Thank you, and good luck with testing.